Hello, my loves. Today I'm going to be setting up my bullet journal for the year of 2023. I am using the Notebook Therapy Endless Summer Tsuki journal. So let's get right onto it. I'm beginning with a grid spacing bookmark. Usually I would do a grid spacing sheet, but this felt to be like a better idea, and it was more portable and like functional in a better way. Surrounding my theme, I'm just lining up with two colors on one end of the bookmark, and on one side of it I'm gonna write numbers from 1 to 38, and on the other side I ended up doing 1 to 26. One was for the vertical side of the book and one for the horizontal. Although I was a little skeptical about doing a bookmark this time, it worked out pretty well, and I feel like it would actually make things a lot easier when working on my bullet journal in the future. I divided each of the two grids into halves, 1/3 and 1/4 measurements, and those were the main ones that I would actually be using. So I decided to do that, and further I could add on if any were needed. Moving on to the next page, which is my key page, and this was gonna be a little outside the book, which was gonna be in the front but a little tucked away. I decided to paint. I had a color palette that I had already chosen, which was a few shades of pink and purple, and I was just doing these simple lines. The idea came from an old design that I had done back when I was in school, and I really liked the idea. It was simple, it wasn't a lot of effort. I had a real hard time painting the lines really straight. I'm gonna be very honest, like I had to tape it up, but I was trying to look for a better alternative solution, which I will be talking about later on in the video, because I did find something. I just wasn't using my brain at this point, but I like the idea of having painted these first few pages with lines, because I didn't want to like add to the bigness of it. Now, as you'll see, I'll be painting the center line purple. The key that I am using for this journal is something that I used for my journal for 2022, and it's the exact same thing because I found it really comfortable and it was really easy to remember. Not like I need to refer to the key anymore, I just like having it as a part of my journal. And I kind of really like this font because somewhere I mixed two very different fonts for this journal theme. I previously missed to mention this. I am going to be using the A4 size journal, which is a size down from the B5 that I was previously using for the last 2 years. I just felt like it was big, but I felt like I wanted to size down for this year and try out an A4 just to see how things are. Now, moving on to the next one is going to be the year at a glance page. I was unsure of what I wanted to do on the opposite side of the key, and I was like, a year at a glance would be a good idea that I can flip open and see when referring to my other spreads in my journal as well. I did previously write down all the dates and the numbers because it's a task and a slow process, and I just didn't want you to have to sit and watch through that tedious process of just me writing a bunch of numbers in a bunch of columns. I tried to keep the spread with the same color scheme with pinks, and I'm using my Tombow brush pen for this, but I do end up changing a few things in the spread later down because they turn out like the lettering. I do writing in a certain color of pink, but I end up having purple block square and writing it in white again, because somewhere I felt like the pink was too overpowering in this spread. And there's going to be a purple line which I'm currently painting on the right, and that kind of would complement with the purple headers for the months. And somewhere I wanted a bit more of that purple shade in this spread. So I do go and change it. Unfortunately, I did not capture that on video for you. Now, moving on to this journal, I am going to paste this on the left side, and on that front page, I'm gonna end up naming my journal, but we're gonna start painting a few more lines there, because just for the aesthetic and the colors to pop out when you open the journal at first. So I'm using a color palette of just 4 colors, with a very light pink, a medium pink, and a little bit more darker pink, and a purple. I kept it really simple, as you'll keep seeing further down that I keep playing with the 4 colors itself and not going beyond that, and of course the black and the white. Now I did decide to name this journal Katsumi, just because it was a word that defined what I was trying to achieve for this year, and it felt like it fit the journal really well. I kind of like the idea of being able to name my journals, and kind of gives them a bit more of personality in a way, and I feel like this is something I'm going to be doing more often with my other journals as well. It's always fun to try something new and different and see if you like it, and I really like the idea of trying to find a name for this journal. Now the next page is going to be my 2023 spread. As you can see, I tried painting a few stripes, but it was just a tedious task, and I was like, why don't I just cut out stripes with painted paper and stick them on, which was a way more easier way to do this than painting each stripe, because that would have taken me forever and I would have to wait for the paint to dry. So on a separate piece of paper, I did paint out each color, and then I just cut it in various sizes with 0.5 centimeters, 1 centimeter to 2 centimeters maximum. And you'll see I'm just sticking and playing with the 4 colors. Now I kind of fell in love with this font when I saw it, and I decided to write 2023 in that space in the way that it is. The spread for this year was very line oriented and very pastel themed because of the journal I decided to choose, and I was quite happy. I probably won't be using a lot of pink maybe for a little while now, because I feel like I've used way too much pink in these spreads. Not that I don't like it, it's just I feel like it's a little too much, that I wouldn't want a lot more pink in this journal. But you never know. Now this page is going to be my quote page, and this was the first quote that I saw, and I was like, yes, that is the quote that I need. Now I was trying to fill it in with my Tombow pen, but I felt like it was too light, so I went with my Crayola Super Tips, and they kind of had a different color payoff, and I really liked the color because somewhere it was tying it in with the colors that I was already using as paint, and it felt a bit better. So the quote that I wrote on this page is, "Who you are tomorrow begins with what you do today," and I felt it was a bit more apt for what I wanted to do, because I wanted this year, the year 2023, to be a year where I try to build more of myself than just the last few years. The next page is actually moving on to the future log. And this time I decided to do the future log a little differently because I just wanted to try it out. Usually I would do it vertically, and I did cut the end of the future log, and you'll be able to see that the stripes and the paint stripes will end up being seen from the other end. So it's kind of like a tab without actually a tab. Now I did decide to have a calendar here as well because I just felt like I wanted to add one. There was no really specific reason, but I feel like adding one would just help better in a way. And as you can see, I divided the future log into 2 separate pages for the months, and a lot of the footage got deleted in between for creating this. Now, after the future log, I did decide to have a reflections page where I wanted to reflect a lot of the things that kind of were a part of 2022 for me. The reason I decided to add this page would probably be kind of more about trying to get the best out of 2022. It may not have been the best year, but it was better than the previous years. But I still feel like a part of me should work on or kind of remind myself as to the things I learned during the year, things that I made mistakes, and it was just to look back and reflect on ways that I could actually improve a lot of the things for myself. And I divided this page into 6 parts, and I feel like it kind of helped me set my goals for the future as well. It's also a great help for realizing repetitive behaviors that I would put myself into and what I need to avoid and not look back on. So I feel like this was a great addition. Now the next page is going to be my goals page, and this is a little different from how I've always done it, and I did cut it because we're gonna have something combined in the middle, and I'm going for the same look where you can peek through from the behind page, the paint strip. And I'm just quickly writing goals in really big letters, following the same font that I have been using. Initially, it was gonna be a mixture of the 2 fonts, but I decided to just go with one further down the line after the quote page, just because I felt like I was adding too much or too many fonts actually. Now I did divide this first page into 3, where I would focus more on a long-term vision and how I see my life to be. If there is anything blocking that vision of mine and all the things that I wanted to achieve in this year. Of course, I didn't like how this page was turning out, and I did change it up a bit as well. You will see in the clip further that I did add a darker purple with white lettering on top. You can see here. Now the next page is going to be focusing on the focus and actions here. So I have divided into 5 areas of my life, and I will be not only writing the goals there or the focus, but also mentioning how I can act towards these goals or what I can do towards making these things happen in my life, because that seems to be like an important part, and I tend to forget these things even though we have goals, but I forget that I need to take the actions towards them. So the 5 sections that I divided this into was personal, career, to try, to learn, and to let go. Now, this is important because I'm trying to let go of a lot of things. Now, I did flip the page, and the next page is going to be my achievements page at the back. One thing I realized is I tend to fall or forget the things that I achieve for myself, and I feel like writing it down in my journal would help me remember that even though I have bad days, I have achieved a lot more than where I once was. And this is not a very intricate page. It's going to be very simple, where I would just list achievements as and when the year goes by and I do achieve them. Now the page next to the achievements page is going to be my bookshelf page. I did divide this page into two parts because I tend to read fictional and non-fictional books. Now, I don't want to rate the non-fictional books, so I just want to go through them, and I tend to read books that I feel interested in when it comes to nonfiction or things that I want to learn from. So for me to get through that book is really important. And I have a tendency of making notes when I'm reading nonfictional books, so they take a much longer time for me to get through than fictional books, which I would be finishing rather quickly. So here I am just writing achievements at the top of the page because the page was rather simple. I didn't want to add a lot to it. I just wanted it to be more simple and more dedicated towards me filling in my achievements when I do achieve them. Again, following the same font, I do end up changing a few things here as well because I felt it was a little too plain. I did end up adding like a line, purple line beneath it. As for the bookshelf, I did divide the columns into the name, the author, the pages, the start date, end date, and ratings, and this is purely for the non-fictional ones. And at the top, I decided to do a bunch of books for my non-fictional ones, and I'm going to correct myself where I did fictional ones as a column at the bottom. I kind of like the idea of doing this. It felt a little different because I was like, how do I incorporate having that I read non-fictional books but not having to want to rate them in any way? And this kind of just gave the spread a different vibe. Now I am continuing to write bookshelf in the same font at the bottom because I like the idea of calling this spread as a bookshelf in a way. I do want 2023 to be a year where I do read more books than I do in general. Nothing crazy, but yeah, a little bit more than I would do on a normal basis. Kind of want to form it as a habit. Been wanting to form it as a habit since last year. Now onto the last spread. This spread is actually divided into two things. One, on the left, I'm going to be having my ways to uplift my mood spread, and it's nothing fancy. It's going to be just ways that I can help myself when I'm feeling anxiety or overthinking or going through some depression, when I feel physically down, or when I'm having a bad day. And I feel like reminding myself these things is rather important. The page on the right is going to be my period tracker, which is, I did feel this was a nice new addition to my spread list because I had to keep racking my brains to track it and figuring out how it was this, and it really would help keep things more organized for me rather than me having to stress over it. And we're gonna get to the final flip through now. So I did end up loving this idea of a blue journal with pinks and purples and going for this really cool analogous theme. Really enjoyed doing this. I did add more leftover stripes on the right just to tie in both the pages. I'm loving how it looks, that I do feel that I used a lot more pink. The future log ends up being a lot different. I will be posting pictures of my spread on Instagram if you do want to check out the completed spreads. So do let me know. I do feel the purple and the white here does give a better look to it, and I cannot wait to fill this out. I will be posting my ways to uplift my mood spread on Instagram as well. And that's it for today. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time.